Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge. Alright, hello friends and welcome to June. Wow, we are almost halfway through the year. We're about there. That is wild. It always comes up so fast and yeah, it's just crazy. So if you didn't see it already, just yesterday, my monthly wrap up for May went up, which has all my stats and my top 5 books of the month, which was wonderful. I love making that video. It's my favorite. There was also a very special announcement in that video, which I'm not going to spoil here because you should absolutely go watch it. If you didn't, it will definitely, enlighten you as well as help out the channel because that's how we do it, right? That's how we do it. So we're going to go ahead and get into these books. I have 8 to talk about today, which I still feel was a pretty decent showing, especially because a few of them I had to annotate and get them shipped out to patrons. So those always take a little bit longer for me. So yeah, as always, before you dive in, thank you so much to my patrons and channel members who help make this channel go on. At the beginning of each month when I see, how many people are supporting me and helping this happen, it makes me feel so good. It makes me feel so special that I'm able to do what I love, and that is read a shit ton of books and tell you guys about it. So even if you're not able to support via Patreon or channel membership, or even if you don't really care, if you would just give this video a thumbs up, if there's anyone you know who could use some romance recs in their life, pass this video along. Those all help the channel a lot too. So the first book we're going to talk about is a new release called A Major Puckup by Brittany Nicole. So this is the first book in the series I've read. It's book 3, but it is not the first Brittany Nicole I read. I actually read one of her Mafia books earlier this year, which is funny. It was called Irish, and I listened to an audiobook of that one. And this one is book 3 in her revenge series, her hockey revenge series. And I was excited to try this one when I saw it pop up because it said it was a single dad surprise baby that's not the heroine's baby. The hero, it's a baby on the doorstep type story. It's a best friend's dad, age gap, nanny, kind of a second chance romance as well. There was just so much going on in this book, and it was a pretty long book, but once I got the full scope of what was going on, I understood why it was so long, because it really would have felt rushed if the author did anything else with it. So this book, to be as kind of like concise as possible, I was going to say as brief as possible, but we all know that Jen's not going to be brief about it. And you don't want me to be brief, so I get it. But to keep it concise, this involves Gavin and Millie. Again, Gavin is Millie's dad's best friend. Millie is a bit miffed at her father, who, if you have read other books in this series, which again, I haven't, but it appears that Millie's dad is dating and or is marrying a woman who's only a couple years older than herself. And it's also her brother's ex-girlfriend. And, you can maybe tell what the revenge in that book was for this woman. But she's just been very resistant to get close with her dad again and to forgive him, and she's just feeling kind of bitter about it. And so she knows who Gavin is. For some reason, he doesn't know who she is. This was honestly the part of the book that was the hardest for me to believe, because she's supposed to have kind of dressed herself up to look different, but I don't know, I just find it odd that Gavin wouldn't know what his best friend's daughter looked like, even just through pictures, even just through more, right? But I guess we're supposed to believe at the low dim lights at this bar or whatever. And again, for where this story goes, I loved it. It's okay. We'll jump the shark into this that Gavin had no idea. And so Millie's actually a virgin. She wants a little bit of revenge against her dad. She knows who Gavin is. She knows which bar he's going to. So she goes there with the plan to seduce Gavin to get revenge against her dad. I'm going to lose her virginity to her dad's best friend. Now, when she meets him and there's some flirting, she is second guessing herself. She's like, you know what? I don't want to get revenge this way. That would be kind of childish. And honestly, I don't want to mess up this relationship for my dad. But now it's too late. Gavin has seen her and he thinks she's beautiful, and her trying to like push him away, she's doing it in kind of a flirty way still. And so he actually pays the tab of the entire bar to get everyone to leave so that he can make her come on the bar. So yeah, the dude drops his credit card, spends $100 grand to get everybody out so he can do this. So she's just like, you know, I don't think I can say no. So she ends up going back to his hotel with him, and they screw all night, loses her virginity to him. It's fantastic. Gavin is thinking like, who is this amazing woman that I met at this bar? I want her. Well, the next day she's gone when he wakes up, and he needs to catch a plane to where they're going next. I can't remember where they're going. Whatever, it doesn't matter. But she is on this plane because it's his private plane, and her and her brother are on it, and they're like going to the same place and everything. So the jig is up. And the thing is, like, she knew the jig was going to be up. She always kind of planned it to be the shock and horror situation, but now she's kind of regretting it. And so immediately then Gavin is like, you know, a little bit like, how could you do this? And she's like, I'm so sorry. I meant to stop, but you just pursued me, and like, I wanted you, and I did it. So he's feeling kind of hurt by it. So we then have a few different time jumps in this story. So this was all just the beginning, right? That was the one night stand, the fish is on the hook. I can't think of the hook, line, and sinker. They're into each other. And now we have these different, because really what's happening is Gavin is actually telling the story of this woman who got away to a friend of his. And so it's happening kind of in the beginning of this book is him recalling the one night stand and then saying what happened. Because at the current time, which I'll stop giving you an exact play-by-play, but the current time of this story, him and Millie aren't together anymore, which tells you they are together for a while after what goes on, but they're currently not together. And not only that, he's very hurt by it. She's hurt by it. They haven't seen each other in a while, and no one knows that they had this love affair because we never told anyone. So now the current timeline in the story is where the surprise baby part comes in. Gavin gets a baby dropped off on his front doorstep. Through some coincidence and through some decisions, Millie ends up being back in town, and she gets volunteered / pursues becoming the nanny to this baby. So Gavin doesn't want her to be. He doesn't want anything to do with Millie anymore. And so this is actually the story of like the woman pursuing him after she kind of fucked up. So it's a female grovel, kind of, again. And I like that now and then. I like when the woman has to win over the man after she hurt him, you know. And I don't always like it, because I don't always like when the woman has to like pine over something, but it worked in this case. So that's enough detail of this one. I've still left quite a bit to the imagination because this book is long. Okay, this one is long. But I really liked it. I gave this one 4.5 stars. I only took off half a star for some of the length and for the hero being so damn stubborn in a certain points. But I loved it. I love the little kid once we meet him. I love seeing Gavin become a dad so quickly, and just, it was great. It was wonderful. So yeah, gave it 4.5 stars, and it is a 3.5 on the spice scale. They were just really hot together. There isn't anything like overly kinky besides like the forbidden, like it's forbidden and it's hot, and he's very like dominating with her, and it's sexy. Like, he was great. Loved it. All right, next up was Ruling Strickland, which is the 7th book in the Clickanian series by Victoria Aveline, and I have been anticipating the audiobook of this for a while. This book has been out for a good amount of time, but I've listened to every audiobook in this series. Stephen Dexter is the narrator for these, and he just does such a good job. Okay, ever since I listened to Choosing Theo, which I believe is still on Amazon or Audible Plus, and it's on Anyplay. I know I don't talk about Anyplay much lately. I really haven't had time for it, so I did let my subscription lapse because I've been reading so many ALCs, which you'll see I have a few to talk about today too. So I still think that Anyplay is worth your money. I absolutely do. just personally for me, because of the amount of ARCs and ALCs I have, I was only getting to 1 or 2 books within a month, and it's not really worth it if you only do that, you know what I mean? So, but yeah, these Victoria Aveline books, the last time I was on there, you could listen to these there and on Audible Plus. So this newest release won't be available there, but the first like 5 are. So anyway, I've been waiting for this one, and I'd actually like pre-ordered it as soon as it was an option, and this just dropped this last week, and so I could only hold off so long, even though I had so much to do. I actually had a road trip back home, so I listened to most of this on my trip home and back last weekend for Memorial Day, and this one picks up right where everything left off. You know, I don't want to spoil where things got to, but our heroine was left in a very precarious position, and Strickland is the king of this one part of the planet, and because there's a lot going on in the political environment with the humans, and like how the humans were taken from Earth, and the aliens can breed with humans, and they're not having enough women on a lot of them, and certain of the alien races can breed with humans, we've discovered, and so they want them. So anyway, our heroine is Sophie, and she ends up, like I said, stuck in this precarious position, which basically, I'll tell you, she's kidnapped by Strickland, and she really doesn't want to be there. But as things progress, we find out, again, there was a very shocking ending to the last book, and I'm really trying not to spoil that, because if you start at the beginning of the series, you're not going to want to know that shocking event, because it is like, it's a big deal. So I really don't want to spoil that one, even though normally I would get into it. If you've read up to book 6, like, you'll know what I'm talking about. But anywho, Strickland is definitely kind of against our main group of people. As I said, he's taken her captive, not because he wants her for his own mate. He absolutely does not. In fact, he's one of the heroes who doesn't believe that he has a mate, right? Because there is fated mates in this. But what ends up happening, again, to not spoil every detail of it, but it becomes clear that a marriage connection is going to be best. And so, unlike other marriages in this world, which again, if you read the other series, you know that the women in these societies, because they need so many, like they need children to be born, marriages only last for, I think it's only 3 months. And if you don't get like pregnant, or the female doesn't want to, because she still has a say whether she has sex or not with her partner. But if they really are trying for procreation, you basically have 3 months. And if she doesn't get pregnant by that time, they marry someone else, right? Is it 3 months or 3 years? I think it's 3 months. It's been a while. Either way, I know it's not for a very long time. But the difference for Sophie and Strickland is that they would be getting a queen, and it would not be a temporary marriage. He wouldn't turn the queens out, you know, like, even though they might not be fated mates, which of course, like, they will be, because it's that type of story. But even if they don't think they're fated mates, like, this marriage would be a political alliance, and it would be forever. So she wouldn't even have the out of a couple months. So yeah, there's just a lot going on in this one. This one was heavily political. That ended up being like a little bit exhausting to me. And also just how fiercely Strickland is like resistant to this. A cool thing about it, so one of the things that happened to the human women when they were taken is that they were like healed of all of their injuries. And tattoos are considered an injury, right? Because you've damaged the skin to put tattoos in. And our heroine had beautiful art all over her body, tattoos she created herself, and had done, and they all were gone. And so she's feeling very, honestly, depressed about having lost what feels like her identity, which was tough. I mean, I really empathize for her with that. So, but what's cool is that Strickland's people, they can have tattoos, and you'll see like by the cover of this, he has tattoos everywhere. So that's a cool aspect. That's something they bond over. But yeah, I enjoyed this one so much. The audiobook, top tier. I liked it. Because this one was so heavily political, the romance was really only in the last 20% of this. I mean, of course, there's some stuff happening throughout, but I just didn't feel enough of the romance happening until the last like 20% and then we're shoving it all in and trying to wrap this one up. And I don't know, this book almost felt like a bridge book, and I just wasn't expecting that. Like, there's definitely much more to come still where things end up at the end of this one. Like, I know she must have many more things planned for this world, but I won't lie, I was a little sad how I didn't get as much out of this one as I had some of the previous ones. So I gave this one 4 stars. It's still great. It's still, if you're a fan of the series so far, there's a lot of good stuff in there. I just expect me to get good plot and good romance from these, and I feel like I was missing out. Like, one of the best romance ones is, like, I really loved Using Feiho. Was probably the last one that I, like, really fell for it. But yeah, so still great, still great. Yeah, and there was a little bit of tail play. The trigger warning for this, there is kidnapping, there's injuries, there's poisoning, there's harm to an animal. That one was a bit sad. They have these beautiful animals that they use for travel, which is great. All right, real quick, I reread God of Fury by Rena Kent. I had to annotate this for one of my patrons. This was great to revisit. I'm ready for God of War, y'all. I'm ready. We only have 12 days to go until God of War is here. Oh my God, what is this life, y'all? What is this life? I can't wait. So yeah, this one is book 5 in the Legacy of the Gods series. This one is Nikolai and Brandon. It's a lot of people's favorite in the series. It is my favorite in the series. I gave this 6 stars. It was in my top books last year. So revisiting this was by no means a hardship. It's very powerful, very well done. There are a lot of mental health struggles in this. There's a lot of kinky things in this. There's also a lot of just anxiety and yeah, the struggles that both Nikolai and Brandon have are very heavy. And watching them, how their types of chaos and their type of like craziness, and I say craziness not as in the mental craziness, just the general craziness between the two of them as it goes back and forth, was just so powerful. This book has, like, oh, it tears me up multiple times just like talking about it and watching the journey these two go on and the things that they've kept from their families that they're only able to fully share with each other. Like, that's my shit, y'all. That's my shit right there. So that's a 6-star book for me. It's a 4.5 on the spice scale. It's intense. It's everything. I just love it. Now we have Fall With Me by Brooke Montgomery. There was a bit of a snafu getting the arcs out for this, and people, as usual, okay, I just gotta say, and I know I'm not addressing any of you specifically because y'all don't do this, I believe in you, the way people are so entitled about arcs, I do not understand, okay, and this is someone who, I have read 80 arcs this year, 88 is what my list is, okay. There's not a single one of those that I am entitled to, whether it is a gift from an author or it's one that I sign up for because I'm committing to review it and talk about it. And some of the people who the arc is promised on one day, I get it, you expect it, but things come up, changes have to be made, or there's errors found, which if the author didn't fix, then people reading it would be like, I got this arc is just full of so many errors and like it was unreadable. I've literally heard every side of it, okay? I've heard every side of it, okay? But someone was off by like, there was issues with it. There was a change that had to be made and then it had to be like reformatted. She added in the pictures before sending it to the ARC people then as an extra treat for us because there are full page images that she has in the final copy, so she put those in. And so yeah, they were like almost 2 days late going out, which again, I get it. Again, as someone who read 21 arcs last month, and I have them very scheduled out, right? Like I have, you know, the day that it is supposed to be on my Instagram, the day that I'm supposed to review it and stuff. I get it. But to try to shame an author and in their own space, like this was the thing that ticked me off, okay? And I know I'm going on a mini rant about it, and I just get so defensive when people come after authors for, like, it's not even like it's a bad conduct thing. You know, it's not like they said something rude or did something rude or were offensive or hurtful. Like, their book was pushed a little bit. And it wasn't even the book itself, it was the arc of it, which were, an author's not entitled to give you, and you as the person getting it, it's just you getting early access to the book. You're getting a free book in exchange to review it early. And even that, an author can't force you to review it early if you have it, right? And so if it's late, like, then it's late and your review goes out late. Like, it's the author that it will hurt, like, not you, right? Because if they don't have the hype around the book. Anyway, again, spiraling. Someone actually in her Facebook group, the one that is moderated by her, someone went on this rant about how unprofessional it was and, like, I don't know what's going on, and, like, this is just so rude. I can't believe this. And so Brooke, like, accepted the post and then was like, do you realize what you are doing when you attack me in my own space? Like, this isn't a random forum. You know, she's like, take that to your own forum. Take that to your own group chat. Like, you can bitch about me to whoever you want, but you came into my space to tell me how unprofessional it was. You know, and then she reminded people, like, my husband's been in and out of the hospital this month, like, all these things. So I just want to say that I'm not wagging my finger at any certain person for their conduct. I may be judging you a little bit that you went into the author's space, this person who's probably not watching this video, to bitch about it, when it's like, you know, authors have been late getting their arcs to me. I was also affected by this being late. It was tough to get it done in time. You can happily be late and they weren't going to penalize you. And what's the penalty? You don't get the arc next time? Like, come on. It just bugs me. It bugs me too because there are arcs that I've missed out on before because there wasn't enough, or the author's only sending out so many. And then to have people be entitled or be bitchy about it, that it's like late, I'm just like, show some respect or stop signing up for stuff. Like, if you need things to be perfectly on time and everything to work for you, then maybe you shouldn't ask for arcs, because it happens all the time. Authors are late, or they miss their deadlines, or their pet dies, or their husband's in the hospital, and, like, things are delayed, okay? All right, that's enough of, like, tea time with Jen. It got me all fired up. Now, here's the thing. I read Fall with Me, which, let's get into it. I didn't really care for it that much, you know? And that doesn't change the fact that I was pissed that this author was treated that way, all right? So let's get into the book, which is what you're actually here for. I hope you skipped to the review part because I put up a timestamp to get you to it. So this one is Landon and Ellie. And this one, as always, I was looking forward to it, not only because it was Brooke Montgomery, but because this was going to be an amnesia. And at the end of book 2, we saw a jump forward in the epilogue of what happens to Ellie. So Ellie is a barrel racer. She's being trained by Noah and Landon to a degree at Sugarland Creek. Okay, so she has, you know, she's paying to be tutored and trained by Ellie, or by Noah, and she's a champion. She's wonderful at what she does, and she's been there for, I think, 4 years with them by the time we get to this point. Now, she absolutely hates Landon, and it seems inexplicable why she would hate Landon. Now, in the prologue of this one, as we have in the whole series, we get a flashback about Landon and something horrible that happened to him as a teen, and it is that a girl was pushed off like a cliff where they were, like, jumping into a swimming hole, and a girl got pushed and she hit her head and drowned. And then not only did this happen, but Landon's best friend, who was the boyfriend of this girl, he ended up unaliving himself just a little bit after that because he had plans of a future with this woman and he just couldn't handle it. So he unalived himself. And that is our prologue to this. So we don't quite know how that will connect to everything else, but I knew it was going to, right? I knew it was going to, because it doesn't seem like it was affecting Landon too much in current times. So I was like, well, there has to be a purpose of why this is important. But we don't know why Ellie, who is young, she is 7 years younger than him, 6 years younger than him, I don't know, a good amount younger than him, like how she would connect to any of that. But she hates him. We don't know why. And she's just, like, literally irresponsibly, like, hates him. And he is one of her trainers. He helps her with Ranger, her horse. And I gotta say, one of the absolute highlights of this with me is Ellie's relationship with Ranger, the horse. I, like, teared up multiple times reading about her bond with the horse. I love that stuff. farm girl here. I've had horses I was very close with as a kid. I've had cows and bunnies and dogs and sheep and goats that I have loved and poured my attention and time and care into. But there's something extra special about the bond, not even just like with the person and their horse, but any pet that you do a job with or do a competition with, you know, whether it's like a sheepdog that you're giving errands to, or a hunting dog, or a jumper horse or a race horse, or whatever it is. There's a special bond you have to have. The two of you know each other in a special way. And so there's some really beautiful moments while she was racing that I could choke myself up right now, where like a horse isn't doing it because they need a prize. They're doing it for like the love of it and how great it makes them feel, as well as for your joy, because those animals, they can feel when like you're proud and when you're happy, and that with you. So whenever I see animals like working so hard for their owners, I feel so warm and fuzzy because it's so beautiful. And there's a really beautiful moment where they do really well in a competition, and I was just like, oh, Ranger's doing that for her. I just love it. So I was already like a goopy mess about the horse in the beginning, but my like good feelings towards Ranger couldn't really outshine how annoyed with Ellie that I was. And I was annoyed with Ellie for a good chunk because kind of the same issues that I had with Stay With Me came into play with Fall With Me. And that big issue for me being that the timing of this was whack. So I understand authors wanting to put a tease at the end of a previous book to get you excited for this one, right? And again, the epilogue of book 2 was a peek at when Ellie lost her memory. And so she wakes up from an accident that her and like that she's in. She falls off a Ranger. She hits her head and she gets selective amnesia, which again, we'll let it jump. Amnesia in books is always weird. That's not the problem that I have with it. We'll get to it. And now when she sees Landon, she thinks he's hot and she really likes him. And everyone, like, this isn't a secret, like, they tell her right away, like, you hate Landon. And she's like, why? He seems so nice and he's cute. And Landon just, you know, he thinks it's funny, but he's also like, you really don't like me. But she wants to spend time with him and get to know him. And eventually, like, they start dating and he's like, I'm afraid you're going to wake up and remember me and then you'll feel like I lied to you. And she's like, well, you're telling me the truth. So whenever I remember, like, I like you, I think there's lots of great things about you. And again, we've only just in the book found out why she hates him. There is a reason, and in my opinion, it's great that she had memory loss because it was a dumb reason to hate somebody. But this doesn't happen. Her losing her memory in this book that's only 330 pages. It's actually like the shortest one in the series. She doesn't lose her memory until 52% into this. And for that first 50%, you know, there's a little bit of flirting because even though she hates him, there's still this banter. There's not even a hint of her, like, you know, there isn't an accidental, like, kiss or touching or anything that happens when she hates him. So any romance that's truly going on, again, besides just, like, there's chemistry and they're bickering, no romance starts until not only after her accident, but then, like, a little ways still when she's convincing him that, like, oh, it doesn't matter if I don't remember. So there was only 100-ish pages of romance in this book. It was all about her hating him, us not knowing why, and then, you know, piecing together why, and then all of a sudden their relationship goes from 0 to 60 where she wasn't interested in before. So my problem was the pacing. My problem was Ellie's irrational hate for him. And then my problem was when it gets resolved, what the fuck was it? So I was pretty disappointed in this book. It's my least favorite in the series, and I'm very sad about that. And honestly, I don't know. I mean, I'm going to continue the series. There's 2 books left. We have the twins. We have Waylon and, what's his name? Waylon and Warren, or whatever their names are, the last 2. The 2 oldest brothers are twins. They're who we have next. I think it's Sin With Me and Only With Me, I believe. So I'm going to continue out the series. I just think amnesia is tricky at the best of times, and I just don't like when an author teases us that much and then it doesn't happen, right? I like knowing the tropes of books too. Would I have liked this if I knew it was amnesia, but I didn't have the tease of it? Maybe. but I think I still would have disliked the pacing of this. It was too long before the event happens, and then too short of a time for them to fall in love. I think that is poor pacing. I think that's not thinking about, just because you, the author, see all the reasons that they should be together, and you think that just erasing that memory will then, well, then there'll be nothing standing in their way. And I was like, but they still aren't going to fall into each other that quickly. Like, it didn't work for me. I needed another 50 to 100 pages of them like being together. So whether that is they moved the amnesia happening to earlier, or we had more afterwards to do it, I maybe would have liked it better. But yeah, it wasn't great for me. It was not. So I gave this one a 3.5 stars since it was an arc. It was a 2.5 on the spice scale. There was a pretty hot sex scene that involved using his cowboy hat to get off. Wasn't expecting that to happen. That was great. But yeah, there was prison, death, suicide, and grief in this one. So yeah, it just wasn't my favorite. But moving on, that was a long time I spent on that. Again, sorry for the rant, but also not sorry. So Shattered Obsession by Tina Spencer was another book that I read. This was a Patreon book that I read. This one has a cliffhanger. It was the first in, well, I think it's the first in a series, but it's the first in a duet that's in a series. It has a pining hero. He's an obsessed hero. Our heroine is now moving to the same city that her brother lives in. And there's just a lot of secrets that have been kept from everyone that didn't quite work with me. There wasn't a lot of logic to me why a certain aspect was kept a secret and who that would be helping that it was kept a secret. And then again, like, I thought this would be a really dark romance, and like there's some BDSM elements that are introduced near the beginning, but other than that, there wasn't really anything dark again until like way near the end. So I was confused. There's also a secret, like hidden identity part to this. There is some like primal play and CNC are a lot of the spiciness that people like. And there was some stalking, but I didn't connect with this. I was happy to annotate it for my patron, but I probably won't even read the second half of this duet because I don't know what was happening with this. Like, there's no logical sense to a certain part of it, which is fine. Not all stuff has to be logical, but there we go. So I only gave this one 3 stars. It was a 3 on the spice scale. It was a lot of the story being like, oh, I'm so dark. You can't see my darkness. But then, like, I didn't really see the darkness either. So I was like, why are you dark? Anywho. Then I listened to Fear and Fortitude by Sherry Champagne. I've never read this author before, but this is an ALC from Must Love Audio. This is the first in the Bow Street Wallflowers. And this was cool. This author has been read very few times, so definitely check this out if you like what I'm about to say. The narrators were Shane East and Zara Hampton Brown. I love when they narrate together. They're great. And we have our heroine, Juliana, who in the beginning, she is in a carriage accident where she ends up on the estate of Leo, who is a ex-pirate and kind of a disgraced duke. He's believed to have killed his brother, who was the heir, and now he is, and so they think that he killed his brother to make that happen. But he is also the guardian of his niece. And Juliana, who is on the run from something herself, ends up at his estate, like I said, and she is the niece's governess for a little while until the people after her are catching up with her, and then she needs to go on the run. And now Leo, who, you know, he himself, as I said, has been through some stuff. He's just mostly worried about his niece being put in danger, and he wants to help her, but he also, you know, again, is like worried about his niece and like how this could affect her and everything. So they end up kind of going on this adventure together a bit reluctantly. They're keeping a lot of secrets from each other. You know, there's some banter. there's some sexiness. She was going to be forced into marriage to someone. And so she tries to, she's trying to get away from that. And she also thinks, oh, if I lose my virginity, then maybe I can't be forced into this marriage. So she wants Leo to take her virginity. So there's a lot going on in this. But I enjoyed it quite a bit. I did. It was a good time, and I like when I try new historical romance authors. So I will definitely continue this series if the option for more ALCs shall arrive. So I gave it 4 stars, and it was a 2 on the spice scale. All right, then I had an ALC of Dirty Score by Kenna King, and this one is in the same series it's the Hawkeye series, which is a hockey team. Surprise, surprise. And this one is about a, what's his name? Slade and Penelope. They actually went to the same college. They were actually secret pen pals. Slade knew who Penelope was, but Penelope didn't know who he was. And he's also the reason that she missed out on the Olympic trials for figure skating back when they were in college. So it's many years later, and now she is I can't remember if she's team manager or not the team manager, but she does something with the team, and her dad is the GM. Her dad's the general manager. She helps with some stuff there too. And now Slade has been brought on to the team, and she is just like, are you serious? I'm gonna have to see him every day and all this. And her dad is like, it's time to give him a second chance and all this stuff. And so she hates him because of missing out on that opportunity. He had actually punched someone at a party when they were at college, and she had no idea why he was doing this. This person she was on a date with, but what she doesn't know is that this guy and some others in a fraternity all had a bet going that one of them would be the one to deflower the coach's daughter or have sex with her. I don't think she was still a virgin at that time. I don't know. But Slade knows about it, and he punched this guy. But the thing is, she doesn't know at that time that he's her pen pal and he's in love with her. And so overhearing that the people are going to, sleep with her for money, he is enraged, but he never tells anyone. So he accepts his exile to this small little hockey team in the minor leagues, and now he's been brought back to the Hawkeyes. So he's ready to take his chance, not only to get his hockey dreams come true, but also to win over Penelope for real this time. And he does so many swoony things to win over Penelope. It was really beautiful to see. But Penelope is undeserving of this, in my opinion. Really, she gives him such a hard time for stuff that happened when they were very young and without knowing the full context. Now, granted, him keeping it a secret for so long because he's afraid of hurting her, when it's like, dude, just tell her why you punched the guy, was a lot. Also, he then re-picks up this pen pal relationship with her to try to use the pen pal to make her give him a second chance as a person. So not his brightest move to do that. But also the heroine's reaction when she finds out, I found extremely frustrating, and she just gives him such a hard time, and it was frustrating of her. So enjoyed the performance of the audiobook. This was Mackenzie Cartwright and Alex Kidd, but I did not care for this one as much as I did the first one, even though I will continue the series. So I gave this one 3 stars, and it was a 3 on the spice scale. All right, then I was sent my pre-order of Leather and Lark early, which is great. I was very excited to read this one. I really enjoyed Butcher and Blackbird. I gobbled that up last year. And so Barnes & Noble actually sent out early their copies. And yeah, this one is about Lachlan, who is Rowan's brother, and Lark, who is Sloane's friend. And this one involves, let me just read this one because this is very confusing for me to explain. So I'm just going to read the back to you. After contract killer Lachlan Kane botches a job for his boss's biggest client, he knows he'll never claw his way out of the underworld, at least not until songbird Lark Montague offers him a deal. Hunt down a killer and she'll secure his freedom. The catch? He has to marry her and they can't stand each other. Indie singer-songwriter Lark is the sunshine that burns through the darkness Lachlan Kane tries to hide behind. Lachlan might think Lark is just a privileged princess, but the truth is that she keeps plenty of secrets. With her formidable family in a tailspin and her best friend's happiness on the line, Lark's willing to make a vow to the man she's determined to hate, no matter how tempting the broody assassin might be. As Lachlan and Lark navigate the mission that binds them together, it becomes impossible to discern their fake marriage from a real one, but the restless ghosts left in their wake are only a few steps behind, ready to claim more than just their newfound love. So there is a, of course, a killer in here. Lark is actually also a killer. So she kills all the unsavory people who have hurt women or children and stuff like that. But the thing is, it's a secret. And that I thought was strange, especially because Sloane is her best friend, and she knows what Sloane does, but she never tells anyone what she does as well. So the job that Lachlan botches is actually a murder that she commits, and he works for this cleanup crew that will clean them up. And so he goes out to this job. That day she happens to be wearing a Harley Quinn outfit, and it looks like she was in a hit and run, or not a run because she doesn't run, she calls for help. And so he thinks he's just there to clean up a rich girl's mistake, not realizing that the people she kills deserve it. And so they get in this bitch fight, and he actually ends up throwing her in the back of his trunk and is gonna take her out of there or whatever, and she escapes. And so they just have this hate for each other. And then they run into each other later when Rowan and Sloane reintroduce them, and based on hearing his voice, which of course is very distinctive, a sexy growl, she realizes this is the man who humiliated her and put her in a trunk, which she is claustrophobic, and so they instantly hate each other. But because he was so rude and botched the job is the reason that she told on him to her stepdad, who was the one who had hired the cleaning crew, and that's why Lachlan's in trouble. So all of this is a circle of they were shitty to each other in this meeting and it messed up. So anyway, they end up in this fake marriage because it will protect him from her family, because they think that he might be the killer they're looking for, and she knows it's not him. She also wants his help hunting down the killer, as it said. So they enter this fake marriage to protect her from his family and also to team up together. So yeah, I didn't care for this. Let's just get it right out of the way too. Didn't care for this. This was a rough week, y'all. This is a rough week because I was bored out of my ever-loving mind. And I don't know how I'm bored. I don't know how the same author who wrote this book and who also wrote, where is it? There's another one I like too, wrote this one, okay? It wasn't even as wild and crazy as Butcher and Blackbird, and I was bored. People, I was so bored. There wasn't even anything there's some sexual tension between them from the beginning, but there isn't even anything hot happening until page 280 out of this, right? And I'm not saying that I had to be as horny as this one was, okay? This one was also a slow burn, okay? It took 3 years before anything happened. But literally there was nothing between these two until then. And it was so slow. And the plot about who the person was who they need to take out, I thought it was pretty obvious who it was. And I just was so disappointed. I've been so anticipating this book. And I know I'm not the only one who's disappointed. There's a lot of people who aren't rating this one very highly. Yes, it still has some wacky stuff. There's still some gross stuff that'll make you gag. But it also just, I was uninspired by a lot of it. There was a few kinky things right at the beginning. Again, there was none of it until the end. There was some toys, some choking, exhibitionism, pegging, and praise kink, but they were all just shoved in right at the end when we could have been doing it throughout. So I was just very disappointed in that. I gave that one 3.5 stars, and it was a 3.5 on the spice scale. I'm looking forward to the last couple though, which gets told to you in this one. I won't spoil it, but I was let down. So as you can tell, this week wasn't going super hot for me. There's one more book that I finished, which is Broken Beginnings by Cleo Evans. This one was actually another kind of suspense one. So I've never read but I just never got around to reading one of hers. But then I saw that she was starting a small town suspense series that was going to be high heat, but also be like romantic suspense. And I was like, sign me up. I'm here for it. So I just read an arc of this one, and it is as it sounds. I really love the atmosphere of this one. But this one is actually a like previous bully. Our hero is Cameron, and he did used to bully Haley when they were young. He feels really bad about that. He realizes what a little shit he was, and he wants to make up for it, especially when she's back in town and she's going to be like writing a review, I think, of his like winery and restaurant there. And she also has come back to her small town because there is like a serial killer kind of stalking the city or the people around her or something like that. And so she comes back to town, but it appears the killer has followed her there. And so there are people ending up dead around her. So yes, this one has the typical like mystery and thriller aspects of there's murder happening, as well as there is this spark for the first time between these two. And I really loved how the hero, you know, very much apologized for who he was before and what he did, and how a lot of it was because he was attracted to her and he didn't know how to handle it, but it was explained in a really like good way, you know, not in the same kind of I was a bully as we have in some dark romances, but in legit like I didn't know how to handle my feelings, and I'm sorry I made you feel like something was wrong. I'm sorry that I was cruel, and I really believed him. I thought it was really beautiful how they make up. This was high heat. It had some very sexy, spicy stuff in this one. There was some toys. There was some anal play, voyeurism, degradation, CNC. They both love CNC, consensual non-consent. And there was some spit play and cum play that I was not expecting, but was quite delighted by. I really did enjoy that. So yes, trigger warnings for domestic abuse, bullying, murder, death of loved ones, and some gore as well. So yeah, I gave it 4 stars. It was a 4 on the spice scale, and I look forward to reading more. This is Citrus Grove is the series. I'll definitely be reading more. So yeah, I'm sorry for a bit of a ranty week, but I know some of you guys love when I rant, so there's that. But I am highly anticipating books coming out this week. Let's just talk about it. I'm reading one right now I'm really liking that is called The Bones of Love. I've really been looking forward to reading this one, so I need to get to that one. Forgotten Desires by Corinne Michaels also comes out. And then I have some more ALCs to get to this week as well. So there are some good ones waiting. So thank you so much for watching. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up. Make sure you check out my Patreon and channel memberships if you're interested. And we'll see you in the next video, everybody. I can't wait.